it must be reincarnation or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, different opinions about that, But the easiest way to understand that is reincarnation, really, And we've been here before. At this point, everybody just make that clear. There's no new souls anymore. Already since the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said there's no more new souls. There are souls that are very rarely here. Like some souls that come back, once every 700 years or something, or one hadn't been here for 700 years because, for whatever reason. All this is the mastery of Hashem's infinite wisdom to be able to orchestrate and know when the person can get his tikkun. Because the whole purpose of Gilgul, let me just say it before we jump in, then I'll get to you in a second, so you don't have to keep your hand up. The whole purpose of Gilgul is to give you the best possible chance to get your tikkun, to fix what you have to fix.
What is that? Like in Derech HaShem, they speak about in this book, like it's a mission that is assigned by Hashem, and you have to complete it.
Right.
That's what they say here. But it's very cryptical. Like every time when I speak about this, I give this answer because I know this is answer. But what is it practical speaking? You know what I mean? Like,
right. What's my mission?
Yeah,
no, like
where's it written? What are the like? I can imagine that the mission maybe for Micha is different than my mission. But what do I have to think of? It's like
how are you supposed to know?
Yeah, like is it the for example, I don't know, move to Eretz Israel? Is it becoming about teshuva? Yeah. Is it starting a family? Is it working on an addiction? Or right. I don't know. Right. What do you have to think of?
Right. Great question. The truth is we could spend the rest of the year just on this question.
But is this the direction where I have to think of? Or
I mean, it's not really where the Ramchal's going, but let's talk about it because it's so important. But I just don't want to lose this question that we have back here.
No, I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
Sorry, Ty.
No, it's okay.
Okay, if it comes back to you, please let me know. Yeah. Sorry for the delay. The basic answer to what you asked is, it's kind of like what I was saying before. The details of our life are less important. That doesn't mean to say that the details of your life are not important. Of course, they're important and they're valuable and they're beautiful and everything. But how am I supposed to know what to do? That's my mission. The mission is to know what I'm supposed to do. The answer, and the most simple and clear way, and easy way, is to follow the. Oh, you got your question.
Yeah, Shmuel reminded me. Oh. Yeah, you said that by the time of Rashbi there are no more new souls.
Yeah.
I thought I heard, and I could be wrong on this, but that the Rebbe of Karlin, right, addressed the Rebbe of Chabad, right, the first Rebbe of Chabad, when he made the Tanya and said, "Oh, now there's a new soul in the world," like talking about him.
Right. So I'm not familiar with that, but I don't know. Even if he said that, I'm not sure if he meant that the Alter Rebbe's soul is a new soul. I don't know exactly what he meant by that, but it could be that there's exceptions. I don't know, but it says it explicitly in the Zohar, so it's hard to say. But we do have stories of like the Kedushas Levi, for instance, from the Yitzchak when he was born, the Baal Shem Tov said, two different versions, that this soul hasn't been in the world for 500 years. He was really excited. It's a very special neshama came down into the world, or another version says he hasn't been in the world for 700 years. And we have other stories about different tzaddikim. That other tzaddikim saw through Ruach HaKodesh. The Arizal, who wrote extensively about reincarnation, everything was Ruach HaKodesh. What he saw was just, we haven't anything like that since then, and probably not, since the days of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai before then. That he just saw, he saw, like what we cannot see, he was able to see in souls, and he could tell people what their tikkun was, and what, amazing things. But back to your question. So the basic answer is, whatever situation you are in life, following the Torah is the general answer, but we have to learn the Torah to be able to know how to follow the Torah. Like for instance, your question: make aliyah, don't make aliyah. How important is it? Don't tell anybody Muhammad that I even posed that question. But that like you ask a rabbi in New York, yes, in Zurich, you ask a rabbi Muhammad, you're going to get different answers.
Sure, that's the thing.
Right? And each one of them has, I don't know if each one of them has sources in the Gemara. I'm sure the one Muhammad has, I don't know. It's pretty strong. It's a pretty strong svara, even if you're not Zionist at all. It's a pretty strong svara that you should live in Eretz Yisrael. It's pretty simple. It's pretty black and white. Does that mean everybody has to be here now? No. Doesn't mean people are sinning if they're not here now. But just, but the basic answer is to follow the Shulchan Aruch. In any moment of my day, what am I supposed to do? Shulchan Aruch tells me the answer, right? If I really become an expert in learning Torah and learning the Shulchan Aruch, and if I'm not an expert, so I find someone who is an expert to be able to help me, right? Who understands me, understands where I'm coming from, and has a deep grasp of Torah and halacha, and can guide me, and then eventually that I can learn enough that I can understand how to conduct myself in any situation. The Shulchan Aruch, for instance, like sometimes people say, well, everybody should do this. What's lechatchila? You guys know what lechatchila means, right? So if the Shulchan Aruch was just the lechatchila halachas, this is what you should do. So it would be like this thick, right? But the Shulchan Aruch is like this thick because it's all about, well, what if it didn't work out? What if you didn't wake up on time? What if you missed mincha? What if you didn't finish? Or what if you forgot this word? And what if you didn't know that it was Rosh Chodesh today? All the different what ifs, right? So the Shulchan Aruch tells you what to do, but not just for the areas of halacha that we're more familiar with, but also like when it comes to relationships, with marriage, with all kinds of things, right? How to conduct myself, right? And then there's a little bit less or more cryptic parts where, in other words, there might be just one or two teachings in the Gemara or in our sages that teach us something about, like chinuch, for instance, how to educate your children. So how to educate your children 200 years ago, as opposed to how to educate your children in this generation, it's very different. But the Torah is nitzchi, the Torah is eternal, so it has to have guidance for us, right? Being able to find it, being able to pull it out, right? But conducting ourselves through the Torah is always going to give us the compass of what to do. And that's my mission, right? And I think that a lot of people get caught up on this point, like thinking that they have this like unique, everybody's unique and everybody's mission is unique. But like, I've got this like outstanding type of, mission that I have to discover. You don't have to discover any mission. And you already have your mission, exactly where you are. You guys remember the story I told you last week about the Lubavitcher Rebbe coming to Gehenna and giving his chassid $1? And saying you should have atzlacha and your shlichus here in Gehenna, right? If you're in Gehenna, that's a sign that you're supposed to be in Gehenna. Now do good over there. It's a joke, but it's a beautiful story of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. There's a story of one of the old chassidim of the Rebbe, and when the chassidim got too big and the Rebbe could no longer have a private audience with his chassidim, a yechidus. So one of the chassidim didn't get the memo, and he came in town, and they told him wait in line for $. He was like, what? And he gives the $1 from the Rebbe, and he looks so sad, and he said, Rebbe, what's it us? He said, how are we supposed to have a relationship? And he said, what do you mean? And he said, a chassid that can't have a yechidus with his Rebbe, how am I supposed to be a chassid of the Rebbe? How am I supposed to continue being a chassid of the Rebbe? I have things I have to talk about. There's a relationship here. So he was really upset and offended. And the Rebbe told him something amazing. He said, you want to have the closest relationship with me? The closest possible relationship with me? He said, everything that I tell you to do, do it. And there will be nobody that's closer to me than you. That's what he told him. It's a beautiful instruction, right? You want that connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu? You want to know your mission? What does Hashem want from you? You put me here. This is what I'm doing, right? I'm doing your will right now in this situation, right? And sometimes it's not an ideal situation as we would like our lives to look. Okay, that's a general answer, but there's so much more in there. Right? And there's so much more to talk about. Let's go weiter, gentlemen. Tess. והנה, כל זה שזכרנו עד עתה על צד המשפט, מתבאר עוד על צד המציאות כפי אמיתת סדריו כמו שזכרנו לעיל. Everything that we've spoken about in this chapter of how all the different processes that can bring a person to his completion, and how Kadosh Baruch Hu is orchestrating the world and relating to the world in order to bring things along. Not only is that just like justice, that's like how Sim decided it should be, but it's also just the reality. He's going to explain. בחטאים מתרבית הזוהמה ומתעצמת בבני אדם ובעולם. When there's sin in the world, the sin causes spiritual corruption or decay in the world. Zuhama, I mean, like dirt or filth or like an infection, is how it's called in modern Hebrew, right? And it spreads in man, and it spreads in the world. Meaning it brought in something negative, something bad into the world. And this, when that's in the world, the effect that brings is that it causes Hashem's presence and Hashem's light to be hidden from the world. And the more that it expands, more corruption and the more of that bad in the world, so the more Hashem becomes hidden. כן חוזר אלוהי יתברך שמו ומתגלה גילוי על גילוי. And to the extent that the cleansing takes place of that infection, of that corruption, then the world and mankind become purified, and then the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu becomes more revealed. It's just like, it's just like a fact of life. If you have a piece of silver, you have a silver goblet, you have a silver kli, and it becomes filled with rust or filled with just, what's that stuff that gets on silver? Tarnish. Oh, very rarely I'm able to get a word like that. I don't know, because it usually takes commit. Just point this out for a second. When you can't find a word and then you get the word, that's a spiritual pleasure. Think about it.
Like the opposite, if you cannot find something in your pockets, like your key.
It's pain when you can't.
Yeah.
What's the word? It's right there. And when you get it, it's a spiritual. What is it? It's not just to thank Hashem for all the tiny little spiritual pleasures. We don't even think about that as a spiritual pleasure. It's happened to me so many times that I've had to think about it. Anyway, if you have a tarnished silver kli, right? It's still beautiful silver under there. Nothing changed in the silver, but it's just covered up with tarnish. You clean off that tarnish, that thing shines. It's so beautiful. You're like, wow, looks like new, right? That's always shining underneath there, right? The sun is always beautifully shining, right? But sometimes we can't see it because it's nighttime, something blocking it, or because there's clouds that are covering it up, right? And it doesn't look so, the rays don't look so pretty at that time. The Ribono Shel Olam is always in this world, but he's hidden. He becomes hidden. So when we cleanse ourselves, we cleanse the world of the evil, of the negative effects of bad decisions that mankind have made, so then automatically Hashem's light becomes more revealed. And Hashem decided that this is the mechanism that's going to help cleanse it in the world. What's that mechanism? Suffering. The suffering of the world has a constructive purpose only, and that's to help cleanse the tarnish off of the world so that the Kadosh Baruch Hu can be revealed. And therefore, when people who are souls who are bigger souls, leader role souls, like the kinds of people who are connected to thousands of neshamas, you think about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai just for a second. How many human beings did Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai see in his lifetime? I don't know. Probably not so many. 13 years he was hidden in a cave with his son, and then later when he was a Rebbe, he had a very small group of select students, and not just anybody could come in there. There's all stories about that. Now think about his yard site. Just on his yard site, how many people come to visit him at his resting place, right? Hundreds of thousands throughout the year. Millions of people are coming throughout the year to visit Rabbi Shimon, right? His soul is connected to all those souls. Rashi had a small yeshiva, 15, 20 students, right? Every single Jew for the last 1,000 years is a student of Rashi. Think about that. These are souls that their souls are klali as the neshamot klaliyot, that they're connected to so many people. So if those big souls, if they have suffering, right? So that suffering that they endure, especially if they receive it, accept it with love and with joy, of course. So then that fixes and cleanses even more Miklal Abriya Kula, not just for their little courtyard, their spiritual courtyard, but for the whole world at large. Umitkarev Olam Madriga Achar Madriga El Ashlemut. And then through that suffering, the world gets closer and closer to its completion, right? Not because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants a world of suffering, that if we wouldn't ever do anything wrong, so there wouldn't be a need for suffering. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Now we're going to start Gilgul. Yud. Od shoresh acher nimtza la'hanaga al binyanei olam hazeh. And there's another mechanism or aspect of how Kadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. V'hu she'chokhma elyon sidra. That's that the exalted wisdom arranged it such that la'abot od hatzala kamo shezacharnu, to create more avenues that we could be saved, more avenues that we could be fixed. You know, it's like when a father's telling his child, right? Okay, I'm going to count to 3, and I want you to clean up this mess that you made, right? And what is it starts doing? 1, 2.
And he waits longer.
2.5, 2 2/3, 2 3/4, 2 99. Yeah, because he wants to give the kid another opportunity. He doesn't want him to fail, right? He's not counting to 3 because he wants him to fail. Caught you. Now you're gonna have timeout. Chas v'shalom. There's no parent in the world that want that. I mean, no healthy, normal. Yeah.
But the reincarnation. So, if someone is Jewish, he's going to be reincarnated again in a Jewish body, as a Jewish person, or it can be African or whatever, and
No, he's gonna be Jewish.
he's going to always be Jewish.
He's always gonna be Jewish. Yeah.
The
But he might not be a person.
What does it mean?
If he's gonna be a human being, he's gonna be Jewish.
Ah,
But he could be an animal, he could be a rock, he could be a tree.
okay, but then he's not Jewish. It doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, he's a Jewish rock. A Jewish tree.
Jewish rock.
It's a Yiddish neshama in that rock.
But converts, right? They you could be reincarnated as a convert.
No.
No.
No, convert souls are very unique, special souls. It's a very good question. And if you weren't going to ask the question, I was going to, that was my next step. Convert souls have a very, very special place. That all the different souls of Am Yisrael together are one, together with the souls of converts, of course, right? But their place, and this is not in the context, not without, beyond the scope of this shiur really, but the Rizal explains that all those souls have an origin in the soul of Adam HaRishon. They were different parts of Adam HaRishon's soul, right? And there's a whole. It's
The scattering out of the world, is that the theory? Like
of the sparks.
Yeah, the sparks. Is it this?
No, that's something else. But all the souls have a different place, and they all together they comprise the unified, what's called the Koma Shlema, the complete form, the complete soul of Am Yisrael. And like for instance, I'll just give you one example. The Gemara says that the souls of Gerim they have a special place called Mitachat the Kanfei Shechina. They're underneath the wings of the Shechina Kadosh, right? Which is a very interesting language. It sounds like a very just kind of like a loving kind of way of describing it, right? Here, Shechina's hugging them, right? But it doesn't just mean that. It means that there's a specific place where their souls are from, and they have a specific. There's a reason why those souls, even though they're all part of the Am Yisrael unified soul, there's a reason why they have to go through this process, and when they have to go through the process of conversion, and who knows what's going on with those neshamas before that time around. I'm not learning enough. I don't know if anybody is to really to be able to answer that, but it's something different. But lo aleinu, but a person can be also reincarnated to the animals and to the lower down. You guys know there's 4 levels of creation. There's inanimate objects, plant life, animal life, and human life. And the lower down one is reincarnated in that. It's obviously a much more painful and difficult experience, and they need to go through that in order to experience to get their full tikkun. That's they have to go through that. And we have stories. We actually have a number of stories about tzaddikim with Ruach HaKodesh that encountered neshamas like these, right? I'll just tell you one. You guys want to hear one?
Yes.
Well, this one is actually interesting. There's one except, as far as I know. I'm gonna get in big trouble. You know, what are you talking about? A Rizal? All right. It's just between us and us. So there's one exception that I know of. It could be that I'm wrong, but there's one exception I know, that if a person is not reincarnated into a body, into a person, into a human, that it's actually not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And that's if a person is reincarnated into who knows the answer?
Fish.
A fish. Right? Have you guys noticed that Jews are a little bit crazy about fish on Shabbos? Especially Chassidim, right? Chassidim, it's like, like maybe I eat kosher or not, but I'm going to eat fish on Shabbos. I'm just joking, exaggerating. But like three meals, you have to have fish. So the reason is because our tradition is that fish have a very special kind of reality. Even though, if you look at like the nature videos, it doesn't look so peaceful under the ocean. But fish have a kind of a special place in the world of the creation, because since they were not wiped out during the flood, they weren't really affected during the flood of Noah, except that there's lots of different reasons that fish have a kind of special role. So the souls of tzaddikim, sometimes when they have just one little thing left over that they didn't complete, they'll be reincarnated into a fish, kosher fish. And the idea, the hope is that they're going to come up on your Shabbos table, because the way we eat on Shabbos is it creates an amazing spiritual effect. Even simple Jews, all the more so tzaddikim, the way they eat on Shabbos, and that's why Chassidim, they eat at a tish. Tish means table. They go to the tish of the Rebbe. They're eating together with the Rebbe. It's a big thing in Chassidus to eat, and the Rebbe will take a bite out of the fish, and then they pass the fish around. Everybody takes a piece of the fish. There's all deep things here. It's not just kind of these just weird customs that came to be. There's deep Kabbalistic reasons behind all that. Anyway, there's a story. I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's a long story, but there's a story of a maybe I'll just tell the whole story. It's such a great story. There's a story in Shifchei Baal Shem Tov. We're not going to finish the chapter today, but it's worth it to spend a couple minutes. Shifchei Baal Shem Tov, there's a story about it. I forget his name. I think he was a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov. And he was once going, he was trying to get to some place for Shabbos, and it was the time of the Hafrashat HaShlagim, that in the springtime in Europe, the snow starts to melt. And what that does is that causes the rivers to become swell. There's a lot of water in the rivers because they're collecting, all the snow, the melted snow. So he was wondering. He got to a river and needed to cross it. It was Erev Shabbos, and he saw the rivers are kind of raging. He's like, should I do it? Should I not do it? He's going back and forth. And all of a sudden he sees this stray dog, this wild dog. And the dog comes up to the river, and the dog jumps in the river, and he's going to try to ford the river, cross the river to the other side. And it was too much. The water was too much for the dog, and the dog started to drown, and the dog was crying, and he drowned. And this tzaddik is watching this whole thing, and he was just really kind of like touched, like stirred, like in pain to see this dog, creation of HaShem just drowning kacha. It was very hard for him to see, and he started crying. I want to make sure I remember all the details of the story, because I don't want to. Sometimes I do this. I remember, and then I get to the punchline, like, wait a minute, leave. But so he started crying, but he realized that the river is probably too much for him. Also, he better stay put, and he found an inn, a Jewish inn in that place on that side of the river. And he asked the guy if he could stay there. He said, yeah, for sure, stay. And he said, but listen, I'm accustomed to eating fish on Shabbos. If it's at all possible for you to get a nice fish for Shabbos, it would mean a lot to me. So he said, sure, we live by the river, we have plenty of fish. So he got him this big, beautiful fish, and he prepared it for him for Shabbos. And he ate the fish, and then, and very uncharacteristically, he fell asleep right after he ate the fish, he fell asleep on the Shabbos table. And he dreamt, and he saw his father. His father had already passed away, and his father said to him, No, I think as he was starting to eat the fish, he fell asleep. That's what it was. And his father told him in a dream. He said, "Son, be very, very careful how you eat this fish." And he said, "Why?" He said because my neshama is in this fish. My neshama came back to the fish, and I want and you should know that dog saved your life, and me and that dog. The reason why that dog and me and this fish, why this is all happening to you, is because I was a dayan. His father was a judge in the rabbinical court, and this person had done a lot of bad things, and I was chasing him, meaning I was making sure that he was going to get his due punishment, because that was my job, it was my responsibility as the judge, right? But because even though it was right what I did, and according to Jewish law I never transgressed anything about that, but it was just a little bit too much, and so I was judged that I have to come back as a fish to be able to get my tikkun. And for him, since he had been done a lot of bad things, and he was a rodef. A rodef is a Jew who tells on other Jews to the non-Jewish authorities and gets them in trouble and stuff like that. So he said so he had to come back as a dog, which is a very difficult way to get reincarnated. And his tikkun was to be able to save my son's life. Right? So he saved your life. He said, now, as you're eating this fish, so do with a lot of kavanah. That's the story. So just one amazing story that we have passed out, and we have so many different stories. I'll just tell you one more story. It's okay, you guys are okay?
Yeah.
Because people want to go.
And what about when a goy will eat fish with Jewish neshama?
Right. So Kadosh Baruch Hu, this is how the secrets of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. When he was talking about the sparks, right? We have another Kabbalistic concept called the broken vessels. You guys heard the broken vessels? A Kadosh Baruch Hu made a vessel, and he broke the vessel. And what that means practically is that there's spiritual sparks that are connected to each one of our souls, spread out throughout the world, right? You can and your goal is to grab them, take them, and elevate them back to HaShem, reconnect them to their source, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The way you do that is by fulfilling the Torah and the mitzvot through your physical actions. But sometimes you have to, you go on a business trip to China, to Georgia, wherever it is, and some of the tzaddikim said that you think you're going on business because you're on a trip there because you have business, but it's really because there's a cup of water over there that has sparks for your neshama, and only you can really elevate this. So Kadosh Baruch Hu make sure that the sparks get to wherever they need to go, right? But ideally, we do it. We should have kavanah in what we're doing. Here's another story about the Ben Ish Chai. This is an amazing story. The Ben Ish Chai used to write stories about himself, but he masked them. He didn't want people to know that he was writing about himself. So he would say, "Maaseh b'chasidecha." There's a story about a righteous person, right? And so the tradition is that when he says that, he's typically talking about himself, right? But he masked it. So the Ben Ish Chai had, I think, three or four brothers, and they were all Talmidei Chachamim, but they were not in the Rabbanut. He was the rabbi. And they were all very righteous people, but they started a business, a very successful business, and he was the oldest brother. And to honor him, they made him one of the owners of the business, and they called it on his name. And they used to, that's how he made a living. They supported him. They said, "You're gonna be our scholar, the Rav, and we're gonna work So one time there was some type of business deal that one of the competitors of their company basically lied and got them in trouble with the government, and all of them went on trial, and the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai went on trial, and they were trying. The brothers were saying he's not really part of the business. It's just an honorary name that we give him, a title that we give him in order to be able to support him, but he has nothing to do with anything, so that he should be let off. So all of them got, I think, a year in jail, all the brothers, and the Ben Ish Chai had 1 month. So Ben Ish Chai actually sat in jail for 1 month. What did he do during that 1 month? He wrote a sefer, right? He wrote a book. I forget which book it is. I can look it up. but one of his Sfarim. And in another sefer, he writes, Maaseh b'chasid echad. There's a story about a chassid that he went to jail for 1 month, and he was in a cell all by himself because they understood he was a very holy person, so they gave him a cell to himself with a table and a pen and a paper and a Sfarim that he could learn there when he was there. And he said, and why is it that this chassid, if he was a chassid, why did he have to go to jail and spend a month in jail? And he said because there were sparks inside of that cell that could only be elevated through the chassid sitting there and writing Chidushei Torah. There's something about writing Chidushei Torah that elevated the sparks, and only he could do it. So that's why he had to go, right? So we have no idea what's going on in our life. Sometimes we're going through a very, very difficult thing, and there's an amazing purpose behind it. That the rule is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always moving the train along. It's always progress, even if it looks like that it's degressing or that it's digressing, that it's going backwards. It's always progress with our own tikkun and the world's tikkun. Okay, well, enough of those stories. Let's get down to business here. What do you guys say? So, but that's what reincarnation is. Reincarnation, like we said, and he very much simplifies it here. He says one soul that it come several times into this world in different bodies. And that way he can fix in this time around what he didn't do the last time around. So the first time he says he can fix something that he destroyed if he did something bad. Or he can complete something that he did great, but he just needed to do a little bit more, right? Both of those are cause for reincarnation. I'm just going to, in parentheses, say that the Arizal explains that it's not necessarily that one soul comes back. It could be different parts or aspects of a soul that comes back into different bodies. But in any event, he says at the end of all the reincarnations, Ladin, ואולם בסוף כל הגיגולים לדין שלעתיד לבוא, הנה הדין יהיה עליה כפי כל מה שעבר עליה מן הגיגולים שנתגלגלה מן המצבים שהייתה בה. When a person gets his final judgment, you know, and that process of his perfection and entrance into Olam Haba, it's not going to be just on his last incarnation. It's going to be on all the incarnations, all the files on this soul, where it's been. And
I don't remember all those incarnations, so how should I respond to the questions they ask me?
Huh? No. Your soul knows.
Yeah.
Your body doesn't know.
I know, but so
if you keep
the
on
time
working
is
hard
there,
enough,
I remember it again.
if you keep on working hard enough, by the way, you might be able to uncover a little bit of where you've been before, what you've been doing. You know? Some tzaddikim were able to do it. We have lots of tzaddikim that talking about. Even as recently as Rav Kook. Rav Kook said, I don't want you guys to tell on me. And this yeshiva can get in trouble when he says like that. Rav Kook, if not everybody likes it, you know, like, so this is just between us, okay? But I heard from one of my rabbonim, Rav Stavsky Shlita, the Rav Kook. He said that he was actually, he has an akuda, a spark, an aspect of a reincarnation from the Ramchal, from Chizkiyahu Melech, and from Rabbi Nachman, right? And there's stories about him. Rabbi Nachman, one of Rav Kook's Talmidim, Rav Neria, was learning, and he came from a Hasidic family, and he was sitting learning with Rav Kook, and he said, Rebbe, so many of the things you say are like pure Rabbi Nachman, but you never quote him by name. Which Rav Kook, by the way, was legendary for not quoting almost anybody except for Chazal and Psukim. If you look at most of his Sfarim, except his halachic works, he almost never quotes Rishonim and Acharonim. So he asked him why. So the way that he tells the story is Rav Kook closed his eyes, and he had very powerful eyes. Rav Kook. One of his Talmidim described his eyes. He said it was like hot coal floating in a bowl of white milk. That's what he said about it. One of his chavrusas from his childhood said it about his eyes. So So he said Rav Kook closed his eyes for a long time, and then he opened his eyes and said, Ich bin Reb Nachman.
Oh.
He said, I am Rabbi Nachman. So the Talmud said, okay, that's it. We can go back to it was worried. What did I do? That was a very powerful and scary moment for him, Not so many tzaddikim in this generation can say what they're also. Most of us are not necessarily reincarnated from huge tzaddikim, right? But the soul knows, for sure the soul knows, and Kadosh Baruch Hu knows, right? And it's only now that we have such limited, a friend of mine has a son who's autistic, and he told him, he said, Daddy, we're always together, me and you. We've been together before. And he said, what do you mean? He said, it's not just in this life. He said, but usually we're brothers. He said, just this time you're my daddy.
Oh, yeah. And what did your friend respond?
the kids. Sometimes the kids can see, But
It's a good book of mine.
Huh?
It's a good book of mine.
So anyway, that's how it goes. Kadosh Baruch Hu, in the end, he's going to take the whole thing. The soul has a long story, even though we only see snippets of it. We see a very small window of reality, right? And that's why it's so important for us to learn the Torah and the hashkafas of the Torah, to be able to expand our ability to relate to our lives in a much different way than just judging our lives based on the tiny sliver of a vision that we have, right? And I think that's why everybody really loves to learn about reincarnation, because it's not just like this curiosity of something interesting and weird. It's because it really gives an expanded sense of Yiras Shamayim, of there's a much bigger and expansive story that's happening here than we're aware of, right?
I mean, even for your closest friends and family, there's aspects of them that you might discover all the time, right? So so it's kind of the same concept, just on a bigger scale, I guess, right? That you can live someone for 40 years and you still learn something new about them,
Right.
and then so it's not as, it sounds crazy, but maybe it's not as crazy as it sounds.
And also ourselves.
And ourselves.
Also
yeah.
ourselves, I'm 45. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of getting to know myself. And I've been working at it for years. It's not like I just woke up yesterday and I'm working. So and there's also different aspects. I heard a tzaddik say that how this is an interesting. I'm sorry, I'm spending a lot of time outside today, but it's okay. You guys are with me?
Yes,
We're all together? He said something interesting. He said, if you notice, in most music in the world, singing, like lyrical music, people sing, they have lots of different words. There's poems. There's a whole story that's being told in songs, And in most Jewish music, it's just repetitive. Like you take a pasuk and you sing it over and over. Tov lahodot l'Hashem, tov lahodot l'Hashem, tov lahodot, over and over. And we sing the same song, Sometimes, in shul you could just over and over and over, right? So what's the idea? And what's the idea that every day we have to learn Torah, do Chazar on Torah, even if we learned it once before, right? Most people don't do Chazar on algebra or calculus that they learned in high school and college, whatever. How many people here have ever done Chazar on, or on history from the country that you come from?
I'm just the weird nerd that does that.
Are you that? Okay,
Yeah.
So there's always an exception.
That's just because I needed that for my major.
Because it's still relevant to you.
Yeah.
Right? But so he said the reason is because every day a new part of your neshama is revealed in your body. Meaning your neshama is one. It's this one thing. But every day a different part of it comes into the world and comes into your consciousness and comes into your experience. So, and that's true for every day of your life. Right? That's why there's that's why we have to say the same brachas every day. We have to do the same mitzvahs every day. What's the difference between a 12-hour span of time and a 24-hour span of time? We don't say I have to put on my tefillin in the morning and also in the afternoon. It's enough once a day.
Isn't there an opinion that says that maybe you might need to put on tefillin during Micha? Or is it?
Not that you have an obligation to, but it's good to. The Kabbalists, where either Rabbeinu Tam tefillin for Mincha, or some even wear Shimush Rabbah. But
Rabbeinu Tam is Shach. That's why they put on Shach after Shach.
right, and then some people that wear a lot of Sephardim and Mekubalim wear you guys have seen the two tefillin,
Yes.
two tiny pairs of
Yeah,
tefillin.
what
It's
is
Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam
Ah.
together.
Oh,
Right?
really?
And so for this, so a lot of those Kabbalists will wear Shimusha Rabbah and Mincha. You don't see it so much in the city unless you go to the real Kabbalistic, hidden
You can
corners.
see it where you see it.
Where I live, there's a bunch of
Where do you live?
in the Yishuv Gal Nachliel. Not a bunch, but there's a number of guys who conduct themselves according to Kabbalah, and they have these giant, even bigger than like Chabad tefillin, like this real big Shimusha Rabbah tefillin. And Chabad, just the Rebbes, whoever's the Rebbe wears Shimusha Rabbah. But there's different, different things. But as far as an obligation, once a day you wear tefillin and then you fulfill it. But how come that doesn't last also tomorrow? Why did tomorrow you also need to put on your tefillin? Right? And the answer the answer is that because a different part of your neshama came out today. It's a new part that's never been in the world. It's never been revealed. That also needs tefillin. That also needs to say that pasuk. Right? It also needs to learn this part of Torah, even though you learned it every day for the last 10 years. But today, this part of your neshama never saw that part of Torah. I mean, it saw it, on high, but like now, it also needs to, right? And he gave an interesting, a funny mashal about it. He said it's kind of like shawarma. Do you see the shawarma slowly turning, right? So here's the fire and here's the shawarma. It's like each part of the shawarma has to hit that, get that fire on it, to cook it. That's what makes it so delicious. So, okay. So in any event, we said that Kodesh Baruch Hu, the final judgment is not just on the one incarnation, but it's on all the incarnations. And according to all the different scenarios and situations that he was in. אפשר שיגיעו עניינים לאדם שנשמתו השלום עליכם. שיגיעו עניינים לאדם שנשמתו מגולגלת, כפי מה שיגרם לה מצד מה שעשתה בגלגול קודם. And of course, as we know, that a person's situation, their setup in this incarnation is going to be highly affected by what they did in their last incarnation, right? ויינתן לאדם ההוא בעולם מצב כפי זה. And a person's scenario in his life, his setup is based on that. וכפי המצב שיינתן לו יהיה המסע אשר יוטל עליו וכמו שזכרנו לעיל. And that's going to be his mission, right? This also kind of answers the question about how do I know my mission, right? According to your situation, right? What if a person has a child that's a special needs child, right? Well, that's his mission. Because Baruch Hu just told you that. And what if a person has a child that's not a special need? Well, now that's your mission, right? What if a person gets married to a person who didn't realize that they had trauma, and it comes out, or all of a sudden they're having anxiety, right? There's something that's coming up to be fixed here. There's something coming up to get a tikkun. You say, "Wow, I didn't sign up for this." That's a line that we all like to use when things are not going our way. I didn't sign up for this, but because Baruch Hu signed you up for this, right? That means it's your mission. Now that doesn't mean that under all circumstances, there's a person, like for instance in marriage, we have the ability to get divorced, right? But we have halachic parameters of what are grounds for divorce and when can a person, right? So there is such a thing that it's impossible and it's too much, and that's also part of the person's story and they're part of the tikkun. וכבר דינו יתברך שמו מדוקדק הכל האדם לפי מה שהוא בכל בכיונותיו. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's orchestration of our lives is absolutely precise with every single person according to all the different elements. Perush b'chol platei matzav, all the details of your situation. באופן שלא יעמוס לעולם על אדם, and all of it is in order that in the future you got everything cleaned up before, right? This is all part of your tikkun, everything that's going on. In the future, in the world to come, that you'll be able to have the true good, right? That you're not going to have. There's going to be no outstanding debts there if you. Once I parked my car on here in Yerushalayim, and there was no colors on the sidewalk. It looked like free parking in the days where there used to be free parking, and I come back to my car and the guy's writing me a ticket. I said, "Why write me a ticket?" He said, "You have to pay here." I said, "Well, you have to pay. There's no color. There's no sign anywhere here. Like, how am I supposed to know that you're supposed to pay? And just the days before Pango and smartphones, and he said, well, there used to be a sign here. I said, well, shkoyach, there's not a sign anymore. He said, look, you don't pay it. I don't pay my tickets when I get it. It's the guy that works for the area. So it's, I ended up having to pay the ticket, of course, because you can't fight the law and actually win. But it's unjust. It's not right. So who you gonna argue with? You're gonna take it to Bibi? Who are you gonna argue with? Better just pay the ticket and take it as kaparat or no. This is atoning for my sins. Right, but there is such thing as unjust suffering, kaviyachol, that we have in this world on a logical level. But with us in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's nothing that's everything is exactly meted out perfectly for our perfection. In the future, there's not going to be outstanding debts that you didn't know about that aren't really connected to you. And the reason why is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is setting up our lives right now in such a way that we have opportunity after opportunity to fix everything, and all the details of our lives are specifically for that. אבל יגיע לו מן המעשה והפקודה בעולם הזה, כפי מה שתפלוג לו החוכמה העליונה, וכפי זה ידון מעשיו. And according to Hashem's exalted wisdom, he's gonna set us up in this world and give us our mission statement in this world to do.
A true healthy joke. There was a news agency. They were stopping people in Jerusalem. What are you doing in the world? What's your task? I'm a handyman. Everybody was there. I'm a handyman. What are you doing? I'm fixing things. I'm fixing the world. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
That's right. Right. I had a thought that I just wanted to. I think I've told you guys this story before, but sometimes it's easy to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs everything in a general way. But it's harder for us to really believe that like all these details of my life are orchestrated by Hashem. Like it feels like if this one detail would be different, my life would be better, right? A lot of people, if I just had enough money for this, so then my life would be so much easier. Or if my wife was like this, my husband was like this, or my children were like this, or my job was like this, my boss was like this, or if I, all the different if onlys, right? But and at the same time, he believes that there's no I don't have any question that Hashem runs the world, right? But he just has a hard time understanding this thing. So I remember once, and forgive me for repeating a story if I am, but I was going through having a hard time with one of my children, and I went to my Rabbi, and I was in a lot of pain. I cried, and beautiful pastor, my Rabbi cried with me, and after we cried, so he told me, Micha, you can't argue with Hashem. Meaning, you can't believe that Hashem runs the world, like Chazal say, from Kanei Reimim, from the horns of the greatest animal, meaning it's just the biggest animal that Chazal talking about, down to the Beitzei Kinim, down to the eggs of lice. And there's even the most minute detail of this world is not outside of the control and the guidance and the orchestration of Hashem Yisbarach. So he said, it's so for you to say that Kodesh Baruch Hu runs everything, but Micha, Ephraim, Ben Yonis, and David, he forgot. You're the only one. If somehow you fell off off Hashem's radar, right? And they forgot your file got lost. He said you can't do that. He said if we believe in the Kodesh Baruch Hu, we believe that every single thing. So if you're going through this pain, there's a reason why you're going through this pain. There's a reason why you're suffering in this way, right? As opposed to spin, and this is, I think, is the punchline. We'll end on this nakuda. That as opposed to fighting the different circumstances of our lives and struggling with the fact that they are the circumstances of our lives are like this, we should embrace it and enter into it and say, like, Ribbon Shalom, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? And this is our Jewish spiritual heritage. This is our DNA. Avraham Avinu had 10 tests, the hardest test that a person could endure. And he said, Hineni, here I am, Ribbon Shalom. This is the son that you promised me that I've been waiting for 100 years for. And now you're telling me to, like, Hineni, here I am. I don't get it. My mind sees a sliver, but I'm with you. Let me enter into this. This is my mission. I'm trying to do your work in this world. And that's really essentially the hashkafa of a yid in this world. And the whole concept of Gilgul is really just coming to help us to to understand a little bit more deeply, just a little bit of an expansion of our slivered view. Okay, gentlemen. We didn't progress so much in the sefer, but I feel like there's a lot of important subjects.
Go ahead.
Shukran.